Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Top Data Challenges for ISVs. As an ISV, dealing with data integration and connectivity challenges for you and your clients can be a source of headaches and sleepless nights. In this webinar, we will explore best practices of how these data API headaches can be triaged and treated with simple approaches involving cloud-based services, showing how to most efficiently access the right data to help businesses transform vital information into actionable insights. This is Marlis Furs from the Progress Data Direct Studios in Mooresville, North Carolina. I'll be your host for today's session. In the studio today is Jeff Reeser, Senior Product Strategist at Progress. Jeff leads Big Data and Cloud Data Product Strategy for Progress Software. I would like to hand today's session over to Jeff. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Marlis. I appreciate the handoff. That was a great handoff. And hi, everyone, and thank you very much in advance for listening. I'll keep this webinar to around 20-25 minutes and step through some basic challenges in data connectivity and integration that you might have run into already in dealing with your own clients. So with that, let me advance the slides. So it seems like no matter what sort of environment your applications are running in or your clients' applications are running in, there will be this need to collect data in order to move forward in your or your client's business processes. So along that journey, there will undoubtedly be some frustrations and time added in gathering the right data for making the right decisions for the business, whether it's your business or your client's business. I'll go through these 6 scenarios that are listed here in this discussion today, and most of these are challenging for a couple of reasons. It's because of where the data resides, as well as what the approach is to get to that data. You could be dealing with multiple data APIs, connecting to data from mobile devices, connecting to enterprise data, big data clusters, or heavy transactional operating environments. So there's a variety of different scenarios that we'll step through. So let's start with this one. How can I simplify data management to multiple data sources? So having many different and varied connections makes API management far too complex, and it's not a scalable environment. And each API could be unique to that data source, with some native APIs even being proprietary. Also, these native APIs often change frequently. The native Salesforce.com API, for example, gets updated every single quarter. And that means that if you are relying on it within your applications, you might need to update every app that uses it to accommodate those updates. Another point is on development cost. Since there could be many different data APIs to handle, and since many of those involve unique skill sets to understand them, and since many of those could change often enough to become a nightmare to maintain, then the cost of multiple API management explodes, as you can see, along with the explosion of new, up-and-coming data sources out there that you might need to access. So how do we deal with this? How do I simplify this chaos created by the growing variety of data APIs that are out there? There are many vendors out there today who are addressing this problem by providing a cloud-based service for data connectivity. I'll talk to you about our solution as well in this webinar. The connectivity service is then responsible for understanding and managing all of the various and unique data APIs for a broad spectrum of data sources. As a data-driven application developer, whether I'm building a SaaS application in the cloud or an analytics tool or a mobile or a web application, I want to stick to what I know and understand the most. Personally, I am very familiar with SQL, for example, from my enterprise data experience, so my preference is to use SQL whenever I can access data in Salesforce or Eloqua for marketing operations data, or Marketo or Microsoft Dynamics or Oracle or Apache Hadoop. My preference is to use a familiar, standardized, and unified access method. I also want easy ways of configuring connections to new data sources as I need to, still through that same unified access method. This would, in a sense, be my aspirin for the headaches caused by the explosion of data API variety. And you can see on the right-hand side on the slide how the ODBC and JDBC drivers can be included in your application and go through the Data Direct Cloud service, which is a cloud-based connectivity service, to access a broad spectrum of different data sources, both in the cloud and in the enterprise behind a firewall. Okay, let's move on to the next one. How can I access remote data from enterprise mobile applications? So whether migrating enterprise applications to the mobile world or creating new mobilized apps, accessing remote data can be a pain. In general, enterprise data stores like Oracle or DB2 aren't really ready for being accessed by mobile devices. So when building enterprise mobile applications, which inevitably have to collect data from sources that aren't geared towards mobile APIs, there's going to be a problem. In many cases, SQL is just not an option from a mobile application, and it's really too difficult to code ODBC or JDBC from the app or into the app. And then we also have the problem of having to access a wide range of data sources with different non-standard APIs, just like in the previous headache. So what can we really do about this? And what many data integration vendors are starting to do, as we cater more to mobile apps on mobile devices, is offer a more standardized set of APIs supported through OData's Open Data Platform. Now, this allows mobile and web applications to query data sources much more easily than force-fitting SQL. In addition to ODBC and JDBC, Data Direct Cloud that we offer now supports an OData service that can be accessed from the application, and it enables mobile and web applications to query data sources much more easily. So this Open Data Protocol, or OData, is a standard REST API for querying data over the web using HTTP-based data services. The cloud service provides an OData interface that allows client applications to connect to data sources such as Salesforce, DB2, Oracle, and SQL Server. And the cloud service accepts OData query requests, translates them to SQL, and then forwards the SQL to the backend data service or data source to be executed. Applications can invoke the OData service using any of the common clients that provide HTTP or web service access. And because OData is a REST-based service, the OData API makes it easier for mobile, enterprise mobile, web, non-C or C++, and non-Java applications to access those data sources. So all the data is exposed through the OData service, enabling apps to interface with the data sources through web services. And while we still use SQL under the covers, all you have to worry about in this scenario are the simple standardized OData queries to whichever database you need to unlock. And in the grand scheme of things, why is OData so important? Well, sometimes it is just not practical to include SQL data drivers like ODBC and JDBC that are typically used in enterprise applications. If you're going through an OData connectivity service, like the one provided by Data Direct Cloud, then all of that data can be made available using a standardized REST API. So we really have a dual benefit here, and those dual benefits are the value of OData for simpler data connectivity, plus the value of SQL in accessing cloud and enterprise data through an easy-to-use connectivity service. And remember, the OData service has a REST-based model that allows you to perform SQL query-like operations on a URL. a little bit like ODBC for the web, but much, much more than that. You also might have heard of JSON, JSON, which is JavaScript object notation, and it's a data model that's used for smaller data sets in document-based NoSQL databases. Well, OData supports JSON as well, making it very easy to query JSON data from the mobile apps. Okay, let's move on to the next one. How can I securely access enterprise data from the cloud? So enterprise data, typically held in relational databases on-premise behind a firewall, pose some security challenges which add to the latency in accessing the data. Normally, if I wanted to get to the data from a cloud app or from a different network, I would need to open a new data port and essentially reconfigure the firewall whenever I wanted to initiate this, as well as establish separate or new authorization and credentials for every database I wanted to get to. And most likely you'll require extensive SQL API knowledge for each relational database. So it could be a big challenge. And like I said on the prior slide, information stored within the database is most likely sitting securely behind a corporate firewall. Getting access typically means a VPN connection or some other option that involves IT and takes valuable time to establish. But now there's an option available that allows you to securely access local data sources from anywhere, and it's part of Data Direct Cloud again, and it's known as the Onpremise Connector. This little module gets installed on a local network machine, and its job is to direct data requests like a phone operator directing calls. When the call is received, the Onpremise Connector answers and verifies who is requesting access, then opens a secure line of communications to the database. This allows Data Direct Cloud to communicate over the assigned connection because it originates from within the corporate network. Using the data source definition supplied by the cloud-based service, the Onpremise Connector then can now direct the connection to the destination database or application. So it's a clean, simple, easy, better performing way of getting to the enterprise database on a network from a cloud-based application. Let's move on to the next one. So how can I access large volumes of data? And when you start dealing with massive volumes of data, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack of needles when searching for the right data that provides the smartest insights into the business. Enter the notion of dark data, which I like to talk about a lot. From a business perspective, dark data is really all of that data that is not being looked at readily by the business in order to make decisions. In general, dark data does not matter to the business, but I would estimate that 80% of big data is dark data today. So why should we care? Well, just like how dark matter in the cosmos can hide the important stellar metrics that we might want to gather in scientific research, dark data can essentially hide or cloud information that we need within big data business, analytics, and intelligence. Dark data makes it harder to find the right data, so we also need a more scalable solution to handle the volumes of data bytes out there in Hadoop clusters and remote data stores. Gathering data in bulk and in a way that is scalable and efficient is really necessary for faster analysis. So big data is all about business intelligence and data analysis to make the right decisions. So a big challenge for a lot of companies today. So what's the solution? Well, big data is defined by an organization's ability to analyze volumes of data, harvest business intelligence from it, and derive actionable insights and business decisions with it. Dark data is often neglected, accumulating in archives, Hadoop clusters, remote data stores, grids, and log files that no one knows what to do with. In a way, it is antimatter that clouds our vision. But if 80% of big data is dark data, like I said before, not tapping into it means the results of your analytics and intelligence becomes faulty or suspect or incomplete and ultimately not useful and maybe even harmful. So what can we do about it? We can't just ignore it, even though that's pretty easy to do. But in these modern times, with the reemergence of newer and faster ways of accessing data of all types, there is a better option that could have a real impact on the business. Establishing data connectivity, either through a cloud-based service or directly, from any platform or mobile device to data stores that in turn reside anywhere, is really key to unlocking the dark data mysteries. By using SQL or OData APIs to access the data, we can hide those complexities of proprietary interfaces or unique web services and get to a variety of data sources no matter where they might reside, and at lightning speed. On the right-hand side of the slide, I show our support for Apache Hive, which comes with all of the popular commercial Hadoop distributions out there like Hortonworks, MapR, IBM Big Insights, and Cloudera. They all provide some version of Apache Hive. So we at DataDirect have ODBC and JDBC drivers that access Hive data directly. The data that ends up in Hive gets there by using MapReduce on Hadoop distributed file systems in order to filter the right data. And since Hive is SQL-oriented, it's custom-made for accessibility and performance by our data drivers. So let's move on to the next challenge. How should I access data in transaction-intensive environments? And we see a lot of this happening especially in certain industries like financial services and retail. In highly transactional environments, high performance and efficiency while preserving data security are all pretty key. High transaction environments such as stock trading or financial services, like I said, require super fast response times and in turn super fast access to the data. There needs to be high scalability with failover in case a connection gets jammed or breaks. Data access needs to happen in real time or close to it. And the data access needs to efficiently use the resources that are necessary. And this all leads to high throughput operations that are necessary for many critical business processes and applications. So how can we preserve this, handle this in a high-performance way with high efficiency and preserve ACID ACID transactions? So the best way to guarantee high-speed data access is by connecting directly to the data via SQL, which is the protocol of choice when dealing with ACID transactions. If you're not familiar with ACID, I'm sure you probably are, but ACID itself stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability, and is a set of properties that guarantee that database transactions are processed reliably. Atomicity requires that each transaction is all or nothing, so to say. If one part of the transaction fails, the entire transaction fails, and the database state is left unchanged. Consistency ensures that any transaction will bring the database from one valid state to another, and any data written to the database must be valid according to all defined rules. Isolation ensures that the concurrent execution of transactions results in a system state that would be obtained if transactions were executed serially. Durability means that once a transaction has been committed, it will remain so even in the event of power loss, crashes, or errors. So a smart data driver promotes ACID transactions, preserves them, and is designed for speed, reliability, and application failover. The diagram on the right-hand side shows the types of databases and data sources that we support in DataDirect. With ODBC and JDBC and ADO.NET drivers, our connectors are designed for speed, throughput, and efficiency, and includes application failover, load balancing, and data security. So it's a good solution there. Let's move on to the next one. So how can I access data held in my client's business applications? As an ISV, you might be having to deal with this quite a bit. And the big question here is, how do I make my own application data more accessible to users and to other parts of the business? You might have gotten that challenge, that question from your clients. There could be a skills gap there. The application developers might not have all the right skills to readily build and optimize the data connectivity that they need. And in order to custom build the driver, it looks on the surface, and under the surface too, to be way too complex. And even if I could build the driver, how can I provide a universally accepted data access method so that everyone can easily get to my application data? The journey to custom data connectivity starts with a goal and a challenge, some of which are listed here. And it's all about making the data more accessible for quicker data integration. So how can we address that challenge? What's needed here is an SDK, a development kit that enables a quick and easy implementation with customized access to your application's data or to your client's application's data. The SDK would expose the application data through standard APIs like ODBC or JDBC and enable SQL access. SQL execution is optimized by leveraging the data source and the data source's query execution engine that comes with the SDK. Basically here, we can customize access to application data by SQLizing, if I can say that, or transforming a proprietary API into a standard one with very little additional code that has to be written. DataDirect's open access accelerates business analysis by presenting the data in a way familiar to the application user and with rapid return on investments. And we've seen this in a number of case studies as well that we've done. It helps deliver more value to your end users, to your clients' end users, expands the relevance of their applications within their ecosystems, and it enables a quick and easy implementation. It's really the fastest way to make the application compatible with data-centric tools like BI and analytics or ETL tools. The diagram shown on the right on the slide where we have the SDK, which includes an optimized SQL engine and all the tools you need to build customized connectivity to the business logic within your client's applications, has secure and controlled access to application data. So again, this is a good, simple SDK that can be used with a lot of the code already written for you. And we've seen some of our customers and clients use this and get customized connectivity up and running within a matter of days and weeks. So it's been pretty beneficial to them. So let me summarize this way. I talked about the top data API headaches and challenges, and I have some aspirin-oriented recommendations for how to alleviate those headaches. The first one, cloud-based data connectivity services that help ease the data variety chaos. We talked about that in the very beginning. The OData Open Data Platform enables standardized data access for enterprise mobile applications, basically setting up a RESTful API from the mobile app. There's new technology that we provide that it provides low-touch access to enterprise data through a firewall. So an easy way to gain access to enterprise data that resides behind a firewall. We talked about SQL access to Apache Hive and also HBase. I didn't mention that before, but HBase is a part of that too. In big data environments that help ease the headache of dealing with large volumes of data and dark data as well. Talked about data or direct access to databases using data drivers that are architected for speed and efficiency. And that's really paramount for preserving those ACID transactions, very important in a lot of big industry apps. And finally, customized access to private application data can be built quickly and easily using open access. So we talked about that at the end. So that's the summary. And let me close with this slide and encourage you all to consider Data Direct for addressing your data connectivity and integration challenges. There's a number of links here. Take a look at our blog if you get a chance as well. We have some more details on specific use cases that are useful to search through on our blog section. And thank you very much for listening. And at this point, I will turn it back to our lovely host, Marlis, to start up the closing.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Jeff. Let's start off with some questions. So we have a few that have come through the chat window. The first one says, I have a small IT team focused mostly on Oracle. We see the explosion of alternate data sources. Do you have any recommendations on which new sources to explore further or how to make that decision?
Well, if you're already dealing with Oracle connectivity and you're starting to bring in other data from multiple data sources, it's always good to preserve that unified data access. So it's important to understand how to talk to those data sources, and if you can use the same sort of SQL skills that you're familiar with by using Oracle, that would be really beneficial.
Okay, great. Another question. I have seen Data Direct Connect drivers, but I'm new with using Data Direct Cloud. Could you tell me what the key differences are?
Well, the key differences are that you're setting up a more unified way of accessing data to a variety of different data sources. You don't need to understand how to talk to those sources. That would be up to the Data Direct Cloud service. So that's all transparent to you. You just need to understand how to use SQL, which you probably already do. So it's an easy way to get to a variety of different data sources at the same time. And that's really the main value point for it. So it's really beneficial if you're a BI and analytics type vendor, and you want to provide your clients with a simple way to get to their data sources. You can do that through a cloud service rather than having point-to-point connections through individual data drivers. So that's the biggest difference.
Now, if people have further questions, what's the best way to submit those to you? On your blog, or what would you recommend to people, especially for anyone listening to this after it's live and they're listening to the playback?
Well, I gave my my email address at the very beginning. Feel free to use that. You can ask me questions. I can get you the answers. You can search through our blog, and a lot of times there's some more details on individual use cases that might be very appropriate to what you're dealing with. And also take a look at our Data Direct website, and there's a contact us form that you can use, and we're happy to respond to that as well.
Well, thank you, Jeff, so much for all of your time today discussing this topic and coming into the studios and presenting to everybody. So that wraps everything up. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for joining today's session. Oh, and we're seeing people are saying thank you very much. It was a fantastic topic. Again, have a great day, and thanks for joining.